My name is Emily Carter, and I am 35 years old. I've always believed that life has a way of testing us, sometimes in ways we never expect. I live in Toronto, Canada, but today I was in New York City, sitting in one of the most famous restaurants in Manhattan. The place was buzzing with chatter, clinking glasses, and the smell of roasted coffee beans mixed with rich pastries. I was waiting for my cousin, Michael, and a few other family members I hadn't seen in years. Before I tell you what happened, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Are you in your living room, or maybe sneaking a peek on your phone during a break at work? Wherever you are, I hope you are ready, because what I'm about to tell you is going to surprise you. And maybe, just maybe, it will make you think about how we treat the people closest to us. Michael was always the type of cousin who liked to laugh at everything, even when he shouldn't. He had this way of making people feel uncomfortable, but in a funny way. He wore his confidence like a jacket, and sometimes it was too heavy for him to carry. I knew he would be sitting at the center of everything, cracking jokes, probably unaware of how serious the world could be. As I looked around the restaurant, I noticed the polished wooden tables gleaming under soft lights, the waiters moving like dancers between tables, and a few families enjoying what seemed like perfect dinners. I liked the warmth of the place, even if I was nervous about the family gathering. You see, it wasn't just any dinner. It was supposed to be a celebration for my aunt's retirement. A milestone, a big deal, and everyone had gathered, including relatives I barely remembered. Michael finally arrived, laughing as usual. "Emily, you always take forever," he said, giving me a side hug that was more playful than affectionate. He had his usual confident smirk, his brown eyes sparkling like he already knew something I didn't. I smiled, but my mind was elsewhere. I had always been the responsible one in the family. I paid my bills, helped my parents when they needed it, and tried to keep peace when conflicts erupted. Michael, on the other hand, had a way of taking things lightly, sometimes too lightly, and it drove me crazy. The waiter approached, looking ready to take our order. Michael laughed and pointed at a table by the window. "This one's perfect, right by the lights. Isn't it great?" I followed him with my eyes, noticing something that immediately made my stomach twist. The table was not meant for him, or anyone outside the family circle. It was reserved for the people who had been contributing quietly, paying for everyone's meals, keeping their hearts and efforts behind the scenes. I cleared my throat. "Michael, this table is for family. Go find a spot outside." My voice was steady, but my heart pounded in my chest. I didn't know why this small thing felt like the most important moment of my life. Maybe because, for once, I wanted fairness. Michael laughed. Not a polite laugh, not the laugh you use when someone is right, but a laugh that was meant to tease, to brush off authority. "Oh, come on, Emily. It's just a table. Lighten up." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just watched as he shrugged and walked toward the door, still chuckling. I took a deep breath and turned my attention back to the table. My aunt had already arrived, smiling softly, her eyes shining like she had no idea what chaos was about to unfold at her dinner. And then it happened. The moment that made me question everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and even money. The waiter came over, looking nervous, holding a leather folder. He dropped it carefully in front of me. I opened it, expecting a menu or maybe the dessert specials. Instead, my eyes landed on a single piece of paper that made the air in the room feel heavier, denser, like it was pressing down on my shoulders. A bill. Not just any bill. A bill for $3,200. I stared at it for a long time. The coffee in my hand grew cold, but I didn't care. I just sat there, frozen, trying to make sense of what was happening. How could a family dinner, a casual gathering, suddenly become a scene out of a nightmare? My mind raced. Had someone made a mistake? Did the restaurant think I had ordered everything in sight? The waiter's face mirrored my confusion. I just delivered it, ma'am," he stammered. "I'm sorry if there's been a mistake." I took a small sip of my coffee, my fingers trembling. I pushed the bill back toward him gently. This can't be right," I said softly but firmly. Michael's outside now, probably laughing at some stranger on the sidewalk. No one else at the table had noticed yet. They were chatting, sipping wine, enjoying the moment. I wanted to call out, to warn them, but the words stuck in my throat. I could feel my pulse racing. Every memory of family dinners, of birthdays and anniversaries, of lending a helping hand when no one else noticed, came crashing down in my mind. I realized that this was more than a bill. It was a test, a reflection of how invisible effort can sometimes be, even in the people closest to us. I glanced at my aunt. She was laughing at a story someone was telling, completely unaware of the chaos unfolding. My cousin Michael had no idea what had just happened, and the waiter, poor man, looked like he wished he could disappear. I felt a strange mix of anger, disbelief, and curiosity. Curiosity about how far this could go. Curiosity about why the universe, or maybe life itself, would choose this moment to challenge me in front of the people I cared about. I took another sip of my coffee, pushing the bill slightly forward, as if it were a warning, a statement, a question all at once. And then I felt it, the first real weight of the evening. The kind of moment that makes you realize that life can be beautiful, messy, painful, and thrilling all at the same time. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew one thing for sure. Nothing would ever be the same after tonight. I looked around the restaurant once more. Families were laughing, couples were talking softly, waiters moved in practiced patterns. But for me, the world had shifted. The laughter of my cousin outside, the unsuspecting smiles of my relatives, the cold coffee in my hand, and that staggering $3,200 bill, it all pressed on me, demanding a choice. What would I do? Pay the bill? Confront Michael? Call everyone out? Or would I let it slide, letting the world prove that sometimes kindness is invisible until it's tested in the most extreme ways? I sat there, heart racing, eyes fixed on the paper, waiting for the next moment. The one that would decide everything. The restaurant lights flickered slightly, a reminder that nothing is permanent. The waiter shifted uncomfortably, and in that silence, I heard Michael's laughter echo faintly from outside. And then the phone in my purse buzzed. A text. From someone I hadn't expected to hear from tonight. I picked it up. My hand trembled. It read, "Emily, you won't believe what just happened at your table." And that was the moment I realized this dinner was not going to be ordinary. My hands were still trembling as I stared at the text. I didn't recognize the number, and my first thought was that someone had made a mistake at the restaurant. Maybe the manager, maybe even Michael, somehow, though it was hard to imagine. My coffee had gone cold, but I didn't care. The restaurant around me felt distant, like I was watching it from underwater. I took a deep breath and typed back, keeping my fingers steady even though my chest felt like it might explode. "Who is this?" A few seconds later, the reply came. "You need to look under your chair." Now. Under my chair? My heart jumped. Slowly, carefully, I bent down, peeking underneath. There, neatly folded, was another piece of paper. Not a bill this time, but a note, and I could tell instantly it wasn't from Michael. My fingers shook as I unfolded it. It read, "If you touch that bill, you will regret it. Watch carefully. Someone is testing more than just your patience tonight." I froze. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a simple case of a misplaced bill. This was deliberate. Someone was trying to make me uncomfortable, make me question everything I knew about family and trust. I looked around the restaurant again. Everyone was laughing and eating. My aunt was telling a story about her first day at work, completely oblivious. Michael was still outside, and for a moment I felt relief. At least he hadn't caused more trouble yet. Then I realized something worse. I was completely alone in this. No one knew what was happening. If I screamed, everyone would think I was overreacting. If I did nothing, the mysterious warning implied consequences. I sat back down, my mind racing. How did it come to this? A family dinner, a cold cup of coffee, and a $3,200 bill sitting in front of me like a challenge. I remembered the countless times I had helped my family quietly, paying for emergencies, supporting relatives when no one else noticed, picking up the slack when life got messy. And now, somehow, all of that invisible work felt like it had led me here, to this moment of humiliation or danger. I wasn't sure which. The waiter returned, moving nervously. Ma'am, I, I don't know what else to do. The manager isn't here.
I,
I'm sorry. His voice trailed off, and he shuffled away, leaving the bill staring at me like a silent accusation. I sipped my coffee again. The bitter warmth gave me a small comfort, a reminder that at least something in this world was steady. But the note had shaken me.
who could have placed it there? Why?
And why now? I decided to calm myself, to focus on something normal. I looked at my aunt and cousins, trying to remind myself that life was more than shocking bills and mysterious notes. I noticed my younger cousin, Lily, quietly drawing on a napkin, smiling without a care. She was only 8, but she had this ability to find joy even in crowded, noisy restaurants. I realized I could learn something from her. Life might throw chaos at you, but sometimes you just have to keep drawing, keep smiling, keep moving forward. I smiled at her, and she beamed back. For a few minutes, everything felt normal again. I could almost forget the $3,200 staring at me, almost forget the note, almost forget the unease creeping through my chest. Then the real chaos began. Michael returned. He didn't come back to the table, though. Instead, he slipped inside quietly, his usual laugh muted, and sat at a small corner table, watching me. Not talking. Just watching. And something in his eyes, it wasn't the teasing spark I was used to. It was calculating, almost serious. Before I could say anything, the restaurant manager appeared, his face pale and tense. "Miss Carter, may I have a word?" I nodded, trying to stay calm. He leaned in and whispered, "There's been a serious mix-up. Someone put the bill under your name. It wasn't meant for you, but there's more." "More?" I asked, feeling my throat tighten. "Yes," he said, glancing nervously at Michael, who still didn't move. "There's a surveillance issue. Someone may have been tampering with the tables and orders. We're not sure who, but it's complicated. And expensive." I wanted to shout, to demand answers, but my coffee cup was already empty, and my hands were shaking too much. I took another deep breath, trying to stay grounded. Life had a funny way of teaching lessons. Sometimes, it came at you with gentle nudges. Sometimes it slammed into you with a $3,200 bill. I looked at Michael again. He smirked just a tiny bit, but there was something different. A shadow behind the usual humor. And I realized that he might know more than he was letting on. My phone buzzed again. Another message. This time it was from my sister, Claire. "Emily, call me now. Urgent." I felt my chest tighten even more. Was the bill connected to this? Was Michael involved? Why did everyone suddenly seem like part of a bigger plan, one I didn't understand? I took a sip of water, trying to calm down. I told myself I could handle this. I had handled worse, late nights at work, broken promises from friends, family fights. But this was different. It felt like life had taken all the invisible effort I had given and suddenly placed it on a stage for everyone to see. And just when I thought I could breathe, the waiter returned again. This time, he was holding a small envelope. "Ma'am, this came for you," he said, his hands shaking. I opened it. Inside was a single card, elegant, thick and heavy. On it, in beautiful handwriting, it simply said, "The next choice is yours, Emily. Choose wisely." I froze. I could feel the entire restaurant spinning slightly. Michael's eyes were fixed on me. My aunt and cousins were still chatting, unaware. But I knew this was not over. And then I heard a sound, a soft, deliberate clink. I looked down and realized it came from the floor near the table next to mine. I bent slightly and saw it, a small, metallic box.
Locked. Taped shut.
And, attached to it, another note. "Open this if you dare." My heart pounded. I had no idea what was inside.
Money?
Something worse? A secret about Michael? About the family? I couldn't tell. And yet, some part of me wanted to know, even if it terrified me. I sat back, staring at the box, the envelope, the bill, the notes, and Michael, who was now smiling, but not in his usual teasing way. This smile, it was different. Like he was part of a secret I wasn't allowed to understand yet. And that, I realized, was the moment everything changed. The simple family dinner had become a test, a puzzle, and possibly a trap. I took another deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. The extreme moment had just begun. I sat frozen, staring at the small metallic box in front of me. It was locked, sleek, and ominous, like it had been designed to make anyone nervous the moment they saw it. I could feel the weight of the entire restaurant pressing down on me. Even the cheerful chatter and clinking glasses around me felt distant, as though I were in a bubble of tension that no one else could penetrate. Michael's eyes never left me. He was sitting back at his corner table, watching me like a hawk. His usual teasing grin was gone, replaced by something that sent shivers down my spine.
He knew something. He always knew something.
I wasn't sure if I should be afraid or angry or both. I looked at the envelope again, the elegant card with the words, "The next choice is yours, Emily. Choose wisely." My mind raced. Should I open the box? Should I ignore it? Could this be a test? Could someone be playing a cruel trick on me, or worse, trying to humiliate me in front of everyone? I took a slow, steadying breath. Sometimes, life doesn't give you a choice in timing. You just have to make one. I picked up the box carefully. It was heavier than it looked, cold against my fingers. My pulse raced, but I refused to show it. I couldn't let anyone see me falter. Not Michael, not the waiter, not even my aunt, who was still happily chatting away, completely oblivious. Before I could touch the lock, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Claire. "Emily, just wait. Don't do anything yet. Please." I frowned. Wait? How could I wait when the box was right there? The curiosity in me screamed to open it. But the warning in Claire's text made me pause. My instincts told me that sometimes patience is stronger than courage. I set the box carefully on the table, taking another sip of coffee, this time barely tasting it. Then I heard Michael's voice, soft but clear, reaching across the distance between us. "Go on, Emily. Open it. You know you want to." I froze. He was teasing again, but the shadow in his eyes didn't lie. He wasn't just joking. He wanted to see what I would do. My heart raced. I glanced at the waiter. He looked like he wanted to run, like he wished he could vanish, but he couldn't. And I realized then how many people around me were involved in this unknowingly, caught up in a mystery that had nothing to do with them, but would affect me completely. I tried to think rationally. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's a note. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's a test to see how far I'd go. But no matter how I tried to reason, the box glowed in my mind as a symbol of challenge. It was a moment that demanded action. I looked at my aunt again. She was laughing at some old story, unaware. And for a moment, I thought about the lessons she had always taught me about kindness, about patience, about looking out for people quietly. I realized that whatever was inside the box, it wasn't just about me. It might test my kindness, my empathy, or even my courage. I sat there for what felt like forever, weighing my choices, my hands trembling slightly. And then, without warning, Michael got up and walked toward the box. My heart skipped a beat. "Wait," I shouted, though my voice was surprisingly calm. "Don't touch it." He stopped just short of the table. "Relax, Emily. I'm just looking." His fingers hovered over the metallic surface, teasing the edges. My pulse raced. Every instinct screamed at me to pull it away, but my mind knew that confrontation could make things worse. And then, the waiter gasped. I turned to see what had startled him. A small crowd had gathered around a nearby table, staring in shock at something I couldn't yet see. Before I could move, a loud metallic click echoed through the restaurant. My eyes snapped back to the box. The lock, somehow, had opened itself. Slowly, calmly, as if it had been waiting for this exact moment. I froze. My fingers shook. Michael leaned slightly forward, but his face went pale. Even he didn't expect it. Inside the box was a single object, a small, intricately carved wooden figure. At first, I didn't understand what it was. But as I looked closer, I realized it was a miniature key. And, attached to it, another note. It read, "This key unlocks the truth. But beware, the truth can hurt those you love the most." My mind went blank. The $3,200 bill. Michael's behavior. The warning notes. The box.
The key.
Everything was connected. I didn't know how yet, but I could feel the tension climbing higher than ever. I looked at Michael. His hands were trembling slightly. "Emily," he whispered.
I
didn't know it would be like this." I swallowed hard. "Like what?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. He shook his head, not answering. My aunt was still chatting, completely unaware, and I realized how little the people around us understood. Sometimes life hides its hardest moments in plain sight, in the middle of ordinary places, with ordinary people. And then the restaurant lights flickered. Just for a second. But it was enough. Enough to make everyone look up, enough to make me realize that this was far from over. The extreme event had escalated. From a $3,200 bill to a locked box to a mysterious key with a warning about the truth. And yet, the quieter moment, the brief connection with my aunt, my thoughts about kindness and empathy reminded me that no matter how tense life got, there was always something to hold on to. But as the light steadied, I noticed something moving near the kitchen. Someone or something slipped behind the staff unnoticed. I couldn't see clearly, but a shadow darted just out of view, and my heart sank. And that's when I realized this was no longer just about a bill, or a box, or even Michael. This was about secrets, hidden truths, and someone or something was orchestrating it all right in front of us. I swallowed hard and reached for the key. My hands trembled, but I knew I couldn't ignore it. And just as my fingers brushed the wooden key, a loud crash came from the back of the restaurant. Glass shattered, chairs toppled. Everyone screamed. I froze, gripping the key tightly. And in that moment, I realized nothing would ever be ordinary again. The sound of glass shattering made my heart leap into my throat. Plates and cups skittered across the floor, bouncing off the polished wooden tiles with a sharp, ringing echo. People screamed and ducked under tables, their voices rising in panic, while the smell of spilled coffee and broken glass filled the air. I gripped the wooden key tightly in my hand, my knuckles white, my body frozen in a mix of fear and disbelief. Michael jumped up immediately, eyes wide, scanning the room. "What the?" he shouted, his usual confidence gone, replaced by raw panic. Even he didn't seem to know what had caused the crash. I turned toward the source. Near the back of the restaurant, a waiter had tripped over a chair, sending a tray full of dishes crashing to the floor. But it wasn't just a simple accident. The crash seemed deliberate, too coordinated to be random. My stomach churned. Someone had wanted us to notice. Someone had wanted to shake me. People began shouting, and the restaurant manager was running from table to table, trying to calm everyone. "Please stay calm."
Stay calm.
"Nothing is broken," he said, though his voice shook, betraying the chaos around him. I held the key tightly, my mind racing. It was like the universe or someone in the universe was testing me at every turn. I glanced at Michael. He was staring at the crash, frozen, like he had no idea how to react. And for the first time, I realized that maybe he wasn't just part of this game. Maybe he was a player, but not the one in control. I looked around at the other family members. My aunt had risen from her chair, shocked but unharmed, while my younger cousin Lily clutched her napkin like a shield. I knelt beside her. "It's okay, Lily. Nothing's going to hurt us," I whispered, trying to keep my own fear from showing. Her small hands gripped mine, and in that moment, I remembered something important. Kindness and empathy aren't just about helping strangers. They're about protecting those you love, even when the world around you goes mad. Once the restaurant staff had regained control and the shattered glass was swept aside, a quieter calm settled over the room. My heart still pounded, but I tried to focus. The key in my hand felt heavier now, not because of its weight, but because of its meaning. Whoever had orchestrated this, they wanted me to use it. And, perhaps, they wanted to see what kind of person I really was. Michael finally walked over, kneeling beside me. His usual smirk had returned, but it was weak, like the shadow of the man I knew was hiding behind it. "Emily, do you think it's safe now?" he asked, his voice quieter than I'd ever heard. I shook my head. Safe? Nothing about tonight has been safe. We both looked at the wooden key, the small metal box that had unlocked it, and the series of notes that had led us here. I could feel the tension building in the room again, though the chaos had settled. This was the calm before the storm, the quiet lull before something even bigger happened. I thought about my parents, my past, and the countless small acts of kindness I had done without recognition. Life had a way of testing us, and perhaps this was another one of those moments. I realized that kindness wasn't just about doing good, it was about staying strong when everything tried to break you. I looked up at Michael. I don't know what's happening, I said, but whoever is behind this, they're trying to teach me something. His expression softened slightly. Maybe. Or maybe they're just messing with us, he said, though even he sounded uncertain. I smiled faintly, trying to find humor in the moment. If it's a lesson, I hope it's one I can survive. Just as we began to settle, the waiter returned. A phone pressed his ear, eyes wide with alarm. Ma'am, there's someone outside. Watching the restaurant. They're taking pictures of the tables. My stomach sank. I looked toward the window. Across the street, a figure was moving quickly, snapping pictures of the diners inside. I couldn't see their face, but the intention was clear. They weren't there for dinner.
They were there for me.
For the family. For whatever this whole setup was about. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. The extreme events weren't over. They were just moving outside the walls of the restaurant. And suddenly, the quiet moment we had felt fragile, like a bubble that could burst at any second. Michael's hand brushed against mine. Emily, we need to be careful, he said, his voice low. I don't think this is about the bill anymore. This is something else. I nodded. Somehow, I knew he was right. The $3,200 bill, the locked box, the key, the notes, they were just the beginning. Whoever was orchestrating this, they were far smarter than we realized. And then it happened. A loud bang echoed from the kitchen. Not accidental this time. Deliberate. Chairs toppled, dishes smashed, and for a brief second, the entire restaurant fell into chaos again. Patrons screamed, ducking under tables. The lights flickered, plunging the room into shadows. I gripped Michael's hand, my knuckles white. My heart pounded in my ears. I realized then, this was bigger than any lesson about kindness or empathy. This was about survival. And the next choice, the one I was about to make with this wooden key, would change everything. The restaurant was still trembling from the last crash. Glass lay scattered across the floor, shards sparkling under the dim light like dangerous little stars. People whispered in hushed tones, glancing nervously at the doors and windows, while waiters rushed about, trying to reassure everyone that everything was under control. But I could feel it. This wasn't random chaos. This was a plan, and I was at the center of it. I clutched the wooden key tightly. Its smooth surface felt like a lifeline in the storm. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run far away, but something deeper told me that running wasn't an option. Whoever was orchestrating all of this wanted me to stay. They wanted me to face it. Michael stayed by my side, eyes scanning the room. Emily, do you think it's connected to the bill? He asked quietly. I shook my head. The bill was just the start. All of this is bigger. Someone wants something from us. Or from me. I glanced around at my family. My aunt was still trying to calm Lily, who had her small hands over her ears, trembling. My chest ached. I had always believed in protecting people quietly, helping others without expecting recognition, and now that belief was being tested in the most extreme way possible. I knelt beside Lily. It's okay, sweetie. Everything's going to be okay. Just stay close to me, I whispered, pulling her into a gentle hug. Her small body shook, but her trust in me was unwavering. In that moment, I realized the most important lesson of the night. Kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about being there when someone needs you the most. The crowd around us was still murmuring, people glancing nervously at the kitchen and the doors. I realized we were all part of someone else's story now. And I didn't like it. Not one bit. Then Michael leaned closer, his voice barely audible. Emily, I think that key, it's not just a key. It's a choice. A test. Whoever sent those notes, they're making us decide something. And it's not going to be easy. I nodded slowly. My hand tightened around the wooden key. I had faced tough moments in my life before, hardships, disappointments, family betrayals, but nothing like this. This wasn't just about courage or patience. This was about empathy, about understanding what really mattered and standing strong when the world tried to shake you. We moved slowly toward the back of the restaurant, where the noise had been the loudest. The small shadow from earlier was gone, but I could feel eyes watching us, calculating, waiting. Every step felt heavy, every breath thick. I kept thinking about the message in the card. The next choice is yours, Emily. Choose wisely. Michael stopped abruptly. Emily, a look. I followed his gaze and saw something that made my stomach drop. A small envelope had been slipped under the kitchen door. Carefully, I bent down and picked it up. Inside was a single photograph. It was a picture of our family, my aunt, Michael, Lily, me, all sitting at the table just moments before the first crash. But something was off. My eyes went straight to the corner of the photo, where a shadowed figure loomed, blurred but unmistakable. Someone had been there all along, watching, waiting. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. They've been here the whole time, I whispered. Michael's jaw tightened. And they've planned everything. From the bill to the box to this, they've been controlling the story. I realized then that this wasn't just a test of courage or patience. It was a test of awareness, of empathy, of understanding the unseen forces in life. And suddenly, the wooden key felt heavier than ever. It wasn't just a key to a box. It was a key to choices, to consequences, to understanding the truth. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. We need to figure out what they want. And we need to do it before. My voice faltered. I didn't finish the sentence, but Michael understood. Then it happened. The front door of the restaurant burst open with a violent force. A gust of cold air swept inside, sending napkins flying, plates rattling, and glasses clinking dangerously. Everyone froze. I felt my pulse hammering in my chest. A man stepped inside. Tall, sharp-eyed, and dressed in black. He moved with purpose, scanning the room like a predator. My heart skipped a beat. My first thought was to protect Lily and my aunt. My second thought was that the key might hold the answer, or the only defense we had against whatever was about to happen. The man's gaze landed on me. Slowly, deliberately, and a shiver ran through me. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. Everything about him screamed danger. I gripped Michael's hand tightly. Emily, what do we do? He whispered, his voice low but steady. I swallowed hard. I didn't have an answer. I only knew one thing. The next move was mine. And it had to be the right one. The man took a step closer. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. But I knew I couldn't. Not yet. And just as he reached the table, his hand brushing the edge of the wooden key, the lights went out completely. The restaurant was plunged into darkness. Screams erupted, chairs toppled, and the metallic taste of fear filled the air. I clutched the key, my breath coming in short, sharp bursts. My heart raced. I knew then, without a doubt, that the night had reached a new extreme, and that nothing would ever be the same again. Darkness swallowed the restaurant. The sudden blackout made everything feel unreal, like we had stepped into a nightmare. Screams and shouts bounced off the walls, glasses shattered in the distance, and the faint smell of burnt coffee filled the air. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest. I could barely see my own hands, yet I held onto the wooden key as if it were my lifeline. Michael's hand found mine in the darkness. Emily, stay close, he whispered. His voice was steady, but I could hear the fear lurking beneath it. I nodded, trying to steady my shaking hands. Every instinct told me to run, to grab Lily and my aunt and escape into the street, but I also knew that running blindly in darkness could be more dangerous than staying put. Whoever had orchestrated all this, whoever had sent the notes, the box, and now controlled the lights, was counting on panic. I took a deep breath, closing my eyes for a moment, trying to remember my training from years of managing crises at work. When life threw chaos at you, you didn't panic. You thought. You stayed calm. And that was the moment I realized the first lesson of the night. Even in darkness, empathy and clarity could be your guide. I moved slowly toward my aunt and Lily. Michael followed close behind. I knelt beside Lily, wrapping my arms around her small body. It's okay, sweetie. Everything's going to be fine. We just need to stay calm. She clutched my blouse, her tiny fingers trembling. Emily, it's scary, she whispered. I know, Lily, I said softly. But we're together. And together, nothing can hurt us. Michael's hand rested briefly on my shoulder. You're right. We need to stay calm and figure out what's happening. I held the wooden key tightly, feeling its weight and realizing it wasn't just a key. It was a symbol of control in a night full of chaos. Whoever had orchestrated this wanted to see how I would respond, how far I would go to protect my family. The faint hum of a generator kicked in, and the lights flickered weakly. Shadows danced across the walls like phantoms. I could see the outline of the tall man from before, standing near the front door, motionless, watching. I swallowed hard. A whisper of realization hit me. This wasn't random. It wasn't about money. It wasn't even about fear. It was about choices, about how far I would go to act with courage and empathy, and how far someone else would go to test me. I looked at Michael. We need to find out what he wants, and we need to do it without endangering anyone else. Michael nodded, his face serious. And the key, maybe it unlocks more than the box. Maybe it's the only way we can figure this out. I took a deep breath and stood, my heart hammering. I had no idea what would happen if I moved toward the man, but staying still wasn't an option. I had responsibilities. My aunt, Lily, and even Michael depended on me. I stepped carefully, every footfall echoing in the near darkness. Michael followed, keeping close. The man's eyes glinted as I approached. I felt an invisible pressure building, like the air itself was charged with tension. Then, without warning, the man spoke. His voice was calm, cold, and deliberate. Emily Carter, you've proven patience. You've protected those who are vulnerable. But the next choice is the most difficult one yet. I froze. What choice? I asked, my voice trembling slightly. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope, tossing it onto the floor between us. I bent down carefully and picked it up, hands shaking. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It read, "One person must leave now alone. If they do not, everyone will face the consequences." My stomach dropped. Leave? Alone? My mind raced. Who would go? Michael? My aunt? Lily? Me? The wooden key felt unbearably heavy in my hand. I realized the test was no longer about courage or patience. It was about sacrifice. About making the hardest choice possible in life. Choosing someone else's safety over your own. I glanced at Michael. His jaw tightened, his eyes dark. I could see the conflict in him, the same one I felt in my own chest. We both knew what the note implied. If no one acted, the consequences would be worse than any bill, any crash, any note. I swallowed hard and looked down at Lily, who clung to me without understanding. My aunt's eyes met mine, soft, trusting, filled with unspoken faith. I realized then that my life had always been about moments like this, moments where kindness and empathy demanded action, even when fear screamed at you to freeze. I made a choice. Michael, I'll do it, I whispered, my voice barely audible. His eyes widened. Emily, no. You can't. I have to, I said, taking a deep breath. I'll protect them. That's what matters. The man in black nodded once, approvingly. Very well. The key you hold will guide the way. But remember, this path is not without danger. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. Danger. The word echoed in my mind as I realized this night had become more than a lesson in courage or empathy. It was a trial that could change everything about my family, my life, and even Michael's understanding of me. I took a step forward, gripping the wooden key tightly. Every breath felt heavy, every heartbeat deafening. The lights flickered again, shadows twisting across the walls like creatures in a story I didn't want to be part of. And then a sudden, deafening bang. The glass doors at the front of the restaurant exploded inward, sending shards flying across the floor. The man in black lunged toward me, faster than I expected. Michael shouted, but it was drowned out by screams. I tightened my grip on the key, ready to face whatever came next. And in that instant, I realized this night was far from over. The crash of glass and the sudden attack made the world feel like it was spinning out of control. My heart hammered, my ears rang, and for a moment, all I could hear was the echo of my own breathing. I clutched the wooden key as if it were a lifeline, while Michael shouted something behind me, but I couldn't focus on words. My mind was entirely on protecting Lily and my aunt. I grabbed Lily and pulled her behind a nearby table, covering her small body with my arms. "It's okay, Lily. Stay close to me," I whispered, trying to keep my own fear from showing. Her tiny hands trembled in mine, and I could feel her heartbeat matching mine, fast and frantic. I realized then that courage wasn't about not feeling fear, it was about acting despite it. Michael crouched beside us, his eyes scanning the room. "Emily, we need to move."
Now.
I nodded. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but the man in black was fast, precise, and clearly prepared. He had orchestrated this entire chaos from the very beginning, and now he had made his move. I glanced at the wooden key, feeling its weight in my hand. The note had said it would guide me. I didn't know how yet, but I had to trust it. Trust in the lessons of patience, empathy, and courage I had learned over the years. I peeked toward the front of the restaurant. The man in black was moving closer to the table, his eyes fixed on me. I could see the glint of determination in his movements, the silent promise that he wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted. "Emily," Michael's voice broke through my thoughts. "The key, do you think it opens a door? Something we can escape through?" I shook my head. "I don't know. But I do know we have to try." I scanned the room quickly. My aunt was shielding herself behind another table, and Lily was pressed into my side. Tables were overturned, shards of glass scattered, and chaos reigned. I realized then that the quieter moments, those reminders of kindness and empathy, were what would guide me now. Protecting my family was more important than fear or hesitation. I moved toward the kitchen, feeling the wooden key in my hand like it was guiding me. Every step was calculated, careful. The man in black mirrored our movement, always a step behind, never losing sight of his target. Then, the key vibrated lightly in my palm. I froze. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough to make me look down. The key pointed toward a small door in the back corner of the kitchen, a door I hadn't noticed before. "This must be it," I whispered to Michael. We crept toward it, but before we could reach the door, the man in black lunged. I yelped, ducking instinctively. Michael grabbed a nearby chair, swinging it to block the attacker's advance. The chair shattered under the force, but it bought us enough time to reach the door. I fumbled with the key, my hands shaking, and slid it into the lock. It fit perfectly. I turned it slowly, feeling the mechanism click open. The door creaked, revealing a narrow stairwell leading downward, into darkness. "Go," I whispered. "Quick." Michael scooped up Lily, and we slipped into the stairwell, closing the door behind us. The man in black pounded on it, trying to break through, but the lock held. For a moment, we were safe. I leaned against the wall, my breath ragged. Is everyone okay?" I asked, my voice trembling. Lily clung to me, her small voice quiet but steady. "I'm okay, Emily. You kept me safe." My aunt nodded, brushing shards of glass from her sleeve. "You were amazing, Emily," she said softly.
You didn't panic.
"You protected us." I realized then that the lessons of kindness and empathy weren't just about helping others. They were about staying strong when the world tried to break you, about acting with courage when fear threatened to paralyze you. We descended the narrow stairwell slowly, moving deeper into the unknown. The darkness was heavy, but I held the key tightly, feeling its guidance. I didn't know where it would lead, but I knew we had to trust it. Then, without warning, the stairwell opened into a large underground room. The lights flickered on, revealing a space filled with monitors, cameras, and papers scattered everywhere. On one of the screens, we saw live footage of the restaurant. The man in black had vanished, and chaos still reigned above. And then I noticed something that made my heart stop. On another screen, there was a close-up of the metallic box, still open on the restaurant table. But inside it, there was something new. Something that hadn't been there before. A small envelope. And it was addressed to me. My hands trembled as I reached for it. I didn't know what it contained. Another note, a message, a clue, or another test, but I felt a strange mixture of dread and curiosity. I had survived chaos, darkness, and fear, but this could change everything. I opened the envelope slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. Inside was a single piece of paper, written in the same elegant handwriting as the earlier notes. You have acted with courage and empathy. But the hardest choice is yet to come. Decide wisely, Emily, for this choice will shape everything you love. I froze. My pulse thundered in my ears. The extreme events weren't over. They were escalating. And I realized that the next choice wouldn't just test me. It would test the very foundation of who I was. I looked at Michael, Lily, and my aunt. They trusted me. They depended on me. And I understood in that moment that this night was no longer just about a bill, a box, or a key. It was about life, love, and the courage to protect both, no matter the cost. And then a loud, mechanical click echoed through the room. The monitors flickered, and a trapdoor in the floor slowly began to open. My blood ran cold. I gripped the wooden key tighter, realizing the next extreme event was coming. And there was no turning back. The trapdoor yawned open in the middle of the underground room, a black void that seemed to swallow all light. I felt a chill run down my spine. Michael instinctively stepped in front of me, his body tense, shielding Lily and my aunt. The room that had felt safe only moments ago now seemed like a cage, and the wooden key in my hand felt heavier than ever, like it held the weight of every choice I had ever made. Emily, what now? Michael whispered, his voice tight with fear. I swallowed hard, glancing at Lily. She was clutching my arm but looking up at me with trusting eyes. My aunt, though shaken, nodded slightly, silently telling me that we had to face this together. I realized then that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about leading those who depended on you, even when your own fear screamed at you to run. I approached the trapdoor slowly. The darkness below was thick and complete, but I could feel the faint vibration of the key, almost like a pulse, guiding me. Whoever had orchestrated all this had left a trail, a path, and now it was my turn to follow. Do you think it's safe? Michael asked, his voice trembling. I don't know, I admitted. But we don't have a choice. The key is guiding us, and it's our only way forward. I knelt and tested the first step of the trapdoor. It creaked, groaning under my weight, but it held. Michael followed, helping Lily descend carefully, while my aunt gripped the key tightly with me, as if sharing the burden. We moved slowly, step by step, into the darkness. At the bottom, the stairwell opened into a long, narrow corridor, dimly lit by flickering lights. The air smelled of damp concrete and metal. I held the key out in front of me, almost like a compass, and it seemed to glow faintly, pointing us forward. For a moment, I allowed myself a breath. Despite the fear, despite the chaos, there was something inspiring about this. We were together. We were facing the unknown, and we weren't giving up. I thought about every time I had helped someone quietly, every act of empathy that had gone unnoticed. Perhaps this was life's way of showing that kindness and courage always mattered, even when the stakes were highest. We moved cautiously down the corridor, each step echoing loudly in the silence. Michael glanced at me. Do you think this person, the one who set this up, is testing us? Or just toying with us? I think both, I said softly. But we have to keep going. Whatever's ahead, we face it together. Then, at the end of the corridor, the lights flickered violently and went out completely. Darkness swallowed us again. Panic clawed at my chest, but I held onto the key, feeling its faint pulse. I whispered to myself, courage, empathy, focus. Suddenly, I felt a cold gust of air, and a faint metallic scent filled the corridor. The key pulsed stronger, almost urgently, guiding us toward a set of double doors. I reached for the handles, pushing them open slowly. The room beyond was enormous. It was empty, except for a single spotlight in the center illuminating a small pedestal. And on that pedestal was a large envelope, sealed with red wax. I swallowed hard, my pulse hammering. The envelope radiated importance, almost threateningly so. Michael stepped closer. Emily, that's it, isn't it? That has to be what they want you to see. I nodded. Yes, and I have to open it. I took a deep breath and lifted the envelope. The wax broke easily, and I pulled out the contents, a single piece of paper, again written in the same elegant handwriting as before. It read, Emily Carter, you have acted with courage, empathy, and patience. But the ultimate test is here. One choice must be made: reveal the truth you've discovered, or sacrifice it to protect those you love. Choose wisely, for this decision cannot be undone. I froze. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my ears. The wooden key seemed to vibrate in my hand, almost urging me to act. The weight of the choice pressed down on me like a mountain. I glanced at Michael. His jaw tightened, eyes dark with worry. Emily, what does it mean? I shook my head. I don't know fully, but I know it's about protecting my family. That's what matters most. Lily clutched my leg. Emily, I trust you, she whispered. I swallowed hard, the enormity of the decision crashing down on me. Courage, empathy, and love had brought me this far, but now, the ultimate extreme test awaited. And just as I was about to decide, the ground beneath the pedestal shook violently. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling. A hidden mechanism activated. The doors behind us slammed shut with a deafening clang, locking us in. I gripped the wooden key tighter than ever. The ultimate test had begun. The doors behind us slammed shut with a deafening clang, and the enormous room felt suffocating. Dust floated in the air, and the faint light from the spotlight cast long, eerie shadows across the walls. My hands gripped the wooden key so tightly it felt like it might splinter. Every heartbeat thundered in my chest as I looked at the pedestal before me. The envelope still lay open, the single piece of paper like a weight pressing down on my mind. Michael stepped closer, his face pale but determined. Emily, whatever it says, we have to stay calm. We'll figure it out together. I shook my head. Michael, this isn't just about figuring it out. It's about a choice. The ultimate choice. And it's mine to make. Lily tugged at my sleeve, looking up at me with wide, trusting eyes. Emily, you can do it, she whispered. Her words struck me like lightning. All the lessons I'd learned about kindness, empathy, and courage came rushing back. It wasn't about the fear or the chaos surrounding me. It was about protecting the people I loved, no matter what. I looked down at the wooden key. Its faint pulse seemed to sync with my heartbeat, urging me forward, urging me to act. I realized then that this key wasn't just a tool, it was a guide, a symbol of the path I needed to take. I stepped toward the pedestal slowly, each step measured, each breath deliberate. Michael followed, keeping a protective hand near me, while Lily stayed close, clutching my leg. I reached the pedestal and took a deep breath. The envelope's note had been clear: reveal the truth or sacrifice it to protect those I love. My mind raced. The truth, the secrets I'd uncovered, they could change everything. But at what cost? If I revealed them, I could put my family in danger. If I sacrificed them, I could protect them, but remain in the dark myself. I thought about all the acts of empathy that had brought me here, every small decision to help someone quietly, every choice to be patient and courageous. This was the culmination, the final test. I closed my eyes, taking another deep breath. Courage, I whispered. Empathy. Love. I opened my eyes and reached for the key. Slowly, deliberately, I inserted it into a hidden slot on the pedestal. It clicked into place, vibrating slightly as if acknowledging the weight of the choice I was making. Then, A panel slid open in the pedestal, revealing a small screen. On it, footage from earlier in the restaurant flashed, the metallic box, the shattered glasses, the chaos, and finally me holding the key. And then, the man in black appeared on the screen, looking directly into the camera. "Emily Carter," he said, his voice calm, chilling. "You've come this far. But are you willing to face the consequences of your choice?" I swallowed hard, my chest tight. I whispered, even though part of me trembled with fear. A pause. Then a question appeared on the screen. "Do you reveal the truth to everyone now, or sacrifice it to protect your family?" My mind raced. I thought about Michael, who had always been by my side, about Lily, whose trust and innocence had anchored me all night, and about my aunt, who believed in me without question. And I knew. The choice was clear. I pressed the button labeled Protect, sacrificing the truth for my family. The key vibrated violently, then went still. The screen went black. The room was silent for a moment, almost reverent. Then, the floor beneath us rumbled. Not violently, but enough to make me step back. A hidden door opened in the wall opposite the pedestal, revealing a narrow passage leading upward. Faint sunlight spilled in from the top, like a promise of safety. I exhaled, gripping the key tightly. "It worked," I whispered, though I wasn't entirely sure what had worked. Had I made the right choice? The consequences of hiding the truth weren't clear yet. Michael took Lily's hand, his face a mix of relief and worry. "Come on, let's get out of here." We began ascending the narrow passage slowly. Each step was cautious, every creak of the old stairs making my heart jump. And then, just as the sunlight grew brighter ahead, a loud crash echoed from behind us. I turned, heart in my throat. Through the doorway we had just left, the man in black had appeared. He was standing in the shadows, watching us. His expression was unreadable, almost impressed. And then he raised a hand, pointing directly at me. "Remember, Emily Carter, the ultimate choice defines who you are." I felt a chill run down my spine. I didn't know what he meant fully, but I knew one thing. Even though I had protected my family, the consequences of tonight were far from over. I swallowed hard, gripping the key, and led my family upward, into the sunlight, my mind racing with what might come next. The sunlight at the top of the narrow passage felt like a promise, warm against my skin after the darkness and chaos we had endured. I led Lily and my aunt carefully up the remaining steps, Michael following closely, his hand brushing mine in silent reassurance. Each step felt heavier than the last, not because of fatigue, but because I knew the ultimate choice I had made would ripple through our lives in ways I couldn't yet imagine. Finally, we emerged from the passage into a quiet alley behind the restaurant. The city's sounds greeted us, distant traffic, birds chirping, the occasional honk of a horn. Normalcy felt surreal after the storm we had just survived. I looked back toward the building, now silent and unremarkable, as though nothing had happened there. But I knew better. Everything had changed. Michael crouched beside Lily, holding her close. "She's okay," he whispered, almost to himself. "We're okay." I nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, we're okay. But that doesn't mean it's over." My eyes lingered on the wooden key in my hand. It had guided us, protected us, and reminded me of what mattered most: courage, empathy, and the responsibility to those I loved. My aunt reached out and touched my arm. "Emily, you did what was right. You protected us, even when it was hardest. That takes a strength most people never find in a lifetime." I smiled faintly, exhausted but proud. "Thank you, but it wasn't just me. You all trusted me, and that gave me courage. That's what mattered most." Michael stood, brushing dust from his jacket. "Do you think he's done? The man in black? Whoever orchestrated this?" I shook my head slowly. "I don't know. But I do know this. No matter what happens next, we faced it together. And that's more important than any test he could throw at us." We walked slowly down the alley, emerging onto a quiet street. The city felt alive, ordinary, and yet the weight of the night still clung to me. I thought about the $3,200 bill that had started this chaos, the metallic box, the wooden key, and the notes that had guided me. Each extreme event had tested me, but each calmer moment, the protection of Lily, the reassurance of my aunt, Michael's support, had reminded me of the power of kindness and empathy in the darkest moments. And then, a shadow moved across the street. My heart skipped a beat. I turned to see the man in black standing across from us, his face still hidden in shadow. But this time he didn't move toward us. He simply watched. He raised a hand, one last acknowledgement, and then turned, disappearing into the city streets. I exhaled, a mixture of relief and exhaustion washing over me. The extreme tests had ended. The darkness had lifted. And yet, the lessons of the night remained. Courage, empathy, and love were not just words. They were actions, choices, and responsibilities. I glanced at Michael. "Do you think it's really over?" He shook his head, smiling faintly. "Maybe not. But whatever comes next, I know one thing. We survived, and we did it together." Lily hugged me tightly, her small arms full of trust and innocence. "Emily, you're the bravest person I know," she whispered. I smiled, my heart swelling.
"No, Lily.
"You're the brave one, too.
You trusted me."
And that made all the difference. My aunt squeezed my shoulder. "Life will throw more tests, Emily. But I think you've learned what matters most. Kindness, empathy, and courage. That's the truth no one can take away." I looked at the wooden key one last time. It had been a guide, a challenge, and a reminder of what mattered. I tucked it safely into my pocket, knowing that even if the next test came, I would face it the same way, with courage, empathy, and love. As we walked away from the restaurant, hand in hand, I realized that life was full of choices. Some were small, some were extreme. But the ones that mattered most were the choices we made for others, the ones that tested our heart and our spirit. And in that moment, I knew, no test, no shadow, no secret could ever change the truth we carried inside us, the truth that kindness, empathy, and courage would always guide us home. The city stretched out before us, ordinary yet filled with possibility. And for the first time that night, I felt a calm I hadn't known since the chaos began. We had survived the extreme, embraced the lessons, and emerged stronger, together. And somewhere in the shadows, I sensed that the story was not over. Life always had more challenges. But for now, we had chosen wisely. And that choice was enough.